Okay, so what's the view from Russia about the peace talks?
I can
Yeah.
tell you, I was trying to cover these things today, looking at the, let's say, main regime titles. So I'm covering RIA Novosti, the press agency, state agency, TASS, plus some big titles like Komsomolskaya Pravda, that was supposed to be um, the title that Vladimir Putin likes very much, Moskovsky Komsomolets, and Vzгляд, that is also interesting because it was, well, in the past, before the 24th February, it was perceived as, let's say, insight into Kremlin policy. Now it's hard to say because censorship is so hard that in general these narratives are coordinated, but their texts are, I'd say, broader and are trying to cover a political situation. Well, it is propaganda, but it is showing how they are trying to describe reality. So now I may take a look at the some titles. I'm looking at the titles in Russian. They are only from today. So, for example, when you look at Komsomolskaya Pravda, one of the titles is not easy thing. Putin appreciates Donald Trump trying to finish the conflict in Ukraine. And in general, now Donald Trump became for Russian propaganda, let's say, positive hero. The negative hero, as usual, obviously is Ukraine, but also Europe. And what is interesting, now they started, I see that not only in Komsomolskaya Pravda, but for example also in RIA Novosti and in other titles from today and from yesterday, they started to divide Donald Trump and somehow the USA from EU. So EU is called Коллективный Запад. Collective West is European Union. And Trump is the guy who is working with Putin, let's say, as partners to finish the conflict. But we have an evil, someone who is trying to spoil everything, and it's Europe using Ukraine and Europe and Ukraine together. And in this text, Europe and Ukraine are described as nationalist, and Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin as, let's say, global players. Yeah, so this is the first thing. The next thing is that they write that the meeting with Witkoff and with Kushner was very useful. This is the title I'm quoting now. Um, and as they underline, as they stress, Pieskov said it's not true that it went wrong. Everything is good. We are just negotiating and working on details. They write about the time, so they also stress that these talks took 5 hours. They use, I'd say, somehow as a magic number. So they write, look, 5 hours and 5 papers, 5 documents, because they write there was the main document, with this 28 points, plus mysterious 4 more documents. They do not write what are the documents. They say we don't know. Everything is top secret, but it's going on. For Russian propaganda, it's also in general very good that it is top secret. So it also showed that the main players is Donald Trump and Putin. Yeah. So in some other titles, because this topic is very broad, it's not obvious for Russia and from Putin regime media that they write so much, so broadly about international events. They often also focus only on some internal events, of course, on the war in Ukraine, sometimes on let's say, ideological, quasi-religious phrases like fighting with collective West, with LGBT, rotten West, and so on. But today, or these days, it's different. So if you open main pages in general, these peace talks are the main topic. They modify these topics, even the same text. They promote them on the page as few text, so you are reading about these things all the time. So in general, they say that yeah, it's also one of the quotations. They say, well, we can see, I'm translating now, that limit уступок США может расшириться. That means that in general, the USA will go further with they write that these things are killing Ukraine. So for Russian propaganda, it's also positive, obviously. They stress that Zelensky had to wait in Brussels and he was not able to talk. In other titles, they underline that Zelensky and European Union don't know what is going on. So they are very happy with that. So they say, in general, it's question of Donetskaya Oblast, as they write. So this is the territory of 30 to 50 kilometers, 20 Donetsk Oblast, that is controlled by Ukraine. So that they say this is the point. So Russia has to get these territories, and it's hard to negotiate that. They also are explaining why. So according to the Putin propaganda, they say it's like matryoshka. So there are few, let's say, dimensions when you open it. It's symbolic, political, and practical. From the symbolic point of view, they write that they really need, so Russia really needs Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. They say it's very symbolical and important because in 2014, I'm quoting, Ruskaya Vesna, Russian spring became. Yeah, so they say if it has become there, it means we should finish it also there. So that's why we have to get these cities. Okay. And then next, they say it's also important to these territories because of, let's say, religious background, because we have to fight with heretics. We have to fight with not real orthodoxies, with Raskolniki. Yes. So we have to clean up the territory from there. So these, let's say, religious aspect of the war, especially in case of Donbas, but also clash with the West is coming back. So it appears sometimes, then it vanishes for long months, and now we have the moment when these accents, ideological, religious accents, and clash of civilizations are coming back. Plus, they write that they name that political aspect, but they mean by the political aspect this idea of Russian propaganda of people from Donbas, Russian-speaking people who are supposed to be under repressions of Ukraine. So they say, of course, we have to rescue them. And the last one is the practical one. So the water. They write about the river Siversky Donets and the water going from Slavyansk to Donetsk. They say there is shortage of water, lack of water in Donetsk now, so we have to get back these territories to have the water. But in other texts, they write if they don't give that back, we will just make that in our traditional way. So using the tool of the war. RIA Novosti, they wrote something like the conflict of the Ukraine is that the end of the conflict in Ukraine is really close. It was never so close as now, but Коллективный Запад, so collective West, is fighting against Trump. So Trump is a good one who is trying to finish the conflict, and Коллективный Запад, so this collective West, so probably Europe, who just want blood, want to fight. And also they just write that there's a very interesting text of also propaganda journalist, the editor-in-chief of the magazine Russia в глобальной политике, so Russia in a global policy, when Fyodor Lukyanov he just says that, as he says, it's also in a lead of the text, just in the beginning. He writes something like that. Well, it will be cynical, but it is true.
I just checked. So when you're talking about the Europeans, so how do the Europeans appear in Russian reporting? Are they just one block? Like, does Russian reporting just talk about the European Union? Does it differentiate countries like Britain that are outside the European Union, or countries that have special relationships with the European Union, such as Norway or Switzerland?
There were before the moments when some of the countries were perceived as positive, but I'd say it's rather the tale of the past. Yeah, so there was the moment when they were talking in a more positive way about France, for example, but long time ago, yes, because now the policy of France is different. So no, when we are talking about peace talks and when we are talking about these texts and these days, it's like one block. In general, even not always the word Europe appears. So that's why they are writing about this коллективный Запад as the West. But they are not differentiating these things, because in general they write that and write in clearly that Europe is a loser. Yes, so they perceive that. There are also very bright quotations, I'd say. Okay, so from Zgliatru, for example, we have the title like Moscow and Washington don't care about Europe and Ukraine. So they say that they should cooperate and they should talk together. In another text from Moskovsky Komsomolets, for example, they write about Europe as about the person with shaking hands, someone hysterical and nervous who is a total loser, and they write, okay, so now we should just find lead these peace talks and find a plan, and they should just obey. Yes, so this is their narrative now.
The thing is that Russia is not losing anything to if they talk, they are constantly, I would say, like playing their masterpiece, and we are those who are played, and they are those who are the players, and this is the thing that we need to understand. Russia is not losing anything, that's what I said at the beginning, because they talk. They are winning. They are winning the crack between the relations of United States and European Union. They are winning because Ukraine is smashed as a very small, player in this game as well. And we can see that Putin right now is using the lessons of Vladimir Lenin, who said that it doesn't really matter who is our ally, because we can change the allies if it gives us the opportunity to win the war at the end. So Putin is not stopping. Even he is saying, or his people are trying to tell us that the peace is very close. It is not. And what is the peace that Russia is trying to sell us? The peace by Russia is the moment when Ukraine is not an independent country, when Europe is divided, when United States are weak. And this is all happening, unfortunately, right now. We do not see any moves from Russia to actually stop the war. If they would really like to stop the war, they can say that, okay, let's make a ceasefire right now and let's talk. And later, if we, for example, not gonna find a common way, we will continue the war. But they are not stopping. They are in the offensive. They are attacking every day, every single day. They are gaining the land in Ukraine. And they are dividing Europeans. They are creating the illusion for the ego of Donald Trump that he is the player, but unfortunately he is the played in this game still, because he thinks about the money. He thinks that we can make money, not the war. But Russia is not thinking this way. The war is their world. They are the nation that is fighting over and over for the centuries. And this is absolutely not a moment when Putin would like to sign any agreement. Even he's saying that I am very open to do it. The Ukraine doesn't want to do it. I can tell you right now that every single person on the Ukrainian ground would love to see the war, the end of the war. And even they will lose some territories, probably. They could agree on something. But Putin is attacking. He's attacking Kupiansk. He's attacking Orikhiv. He's attacking Hulai-Pole. He's attacking Konstantinivka. He's attacking Pokrovsk. He's trying to get to the positions to attack Zaporizhia, to attack Kharkiv, to attack Dnipro, to attack Sumy, and he's even saying that he would like to create kind of zone near Kiev, near Chernihiv. This is very dangerous, because if we think about the war as it is right now, we don't need to have the historical, or the typical front line as we had in the Second World War. Right now, the front line zone is about 50 kilometers from the actual front line. And this zone is growing every week. Every 2 weeks, Russians are developing their drones, and the mother drones that are that can fly further and strike with the smaller drones that they can attack, for example, Zaporizhia. So if the war will be continued as it is now, Putin will definitely gain more area without any agreements. And this is very dangerous, that maybe in the spring we will see the frontline zone, not the front line, but the frontline zone, even in Kiev and in the biggest Ukrainian cities. And this is actually real danger for now. So for Putin, even he's changing his allies, and now he's talking with the United States, and maybe in future he will talk to Great Britain, and maybe he will try to offer something to anyone. It doesn't matter, because he is the liar. Russia in general lies all the time, and peace talks for Russia, this is the element of war. Lenin was saying that even Russia one day may collapse, but if it will give us better position to attack in future, let's do it. Let's destroy our country to attack in future and to win the war in future. So Russia is definitely not stopping. They are trying to get to better position, and right now they are in very good position to attack. They are in very good position at the front line. They are investing more and more money for disinformation and propaganda in Europe and also in the United States. They are trying to sell to the American businessmen, let's call them like that, the story about the world without the wars, and every people, making money and starting to being very rich without the conflicts. But this is utopia. It doesn't exist. This is not the way how the Russians are thinking. The Russians are thinking, we want to rebuild our empire. We want to build Ruski Mir. And what is the Ruski Mir? Ruski Mir, as Lenin said, I will go back to Lenin again. Lenin said that even we need to destroy whole world and build it from the ruins, people need to understand that the Ruski Mir will come anyway. But the Ruski Mir doesn't say that we need to keep the world as we have right now. So Russia is destroying Pokrovsk, is destroying Bakhmut, is destroying thousands square kilometers of land and the cities in Ukraine, killing a lot of people, because it doesn't matter, because Ruski Mir will be built on those ruins. And Putin, unfortunately, now it's very close to do it in future, because Europe is very weak. United States, we don't know what will happen with United States. Europe doesn't have sources to supply Ukraine for now. We need few more years to do it. Russia is using their agents of influence. They are using diversions. They are attacking, European countries, not in the war that we know from the movies, but this war is already happening. We have the fires, we have the assassins, we have diversion in Poland. It just happened. We have drones flying over Norway, Denmark, Lithuania. We see that Russian forces are gathering near the Finnish borders and near Lithuania. We don't know what they will happen. For example, let's imagine situation like Russia, or not Russia, a group of soldiers, let's say Wagner soldiers, they are attacking small village near Polish and Belarusian borders. How the fifth article of NATO will work in this kind of situation? Who is the enemy? Belarus is the enemy? Not really, because these are not Belarusian soldiers. So maybe Russia is the country that we need to attack because the NATO land was attacked. No, because Wagner soldiers, they are not in Russian army. So who attacked NATO? We don't know that. So we need to start to think that the current war, the nowadays war, it's not the typical war with tanks, soldiers attacking everything, but is, a lot of hybrid moves, a lot of hybrid techniques that Russia can use against us, and they have no limits, they have no borders. We are living in the world with the values, we are living in the world of democracy. We don't want to, kill people on the streets. We don't want to send a bomb on the city. Russia has no borders. I will repeat it. They have no borders. They have no limit. And this is the problem. This is the thing. How we would like to respond for this kind of war and for this kind of attacks. I do not have the answer, unfortunately, but I really hope that real diplomats, real politics, real strategists that are existing in Europe, that exists in Europe and in the United States, they will find their way to voice a strategy that we need to take to stop Russian aggression. Because even I am sitting right now in Poland in my flat, and the rockets are not hitting my apartment, I know and I feel that the war is already here.
I just have a question real quick. I mean, the bottom line is Russia winning the war? Because I hear everything from, yeah, their gains are strident and irresistible. To the next level, they're reporting that these aren't really gains; these are infiltrations. And then there's the other commentary that no, they're not winning the war, and they haven't taken Pokrovsk, and everything about their victories is a lie. Where do we fall?
It's very. I don't think so. This should be a question right now because we are in the middle of the game.
Mhm.
If the game longs for 90 minutes, you do not ask in the 40 minute, who is the winner and who will win, because everything can happen. We are in the war. War is happening right now, and everything can happen still. And the free world, the West, can win this war, but we need to find a way. We need to know what we are doing. We need to unify. We need to start to think. We need to start to to actually believe as well, that, for example, disinformation and infiltration, the agents of influence are existing. If we will live in the world that everything is fine, we are comfy, we are sitting in our comfy chair, and the war is somewhere very far from us, then we can probably lose because we will miss those players who are getting to our part of the football field, let's call it like that. So I don't know if Russia is winning. I really would love to believe that they are not winning, but in general, in this in this particular moment of the war, I think Russia really is in the better position in this war. They have some successes and victories at the front line. Ukraine is losing their fortresses in Donbas, and that was one of the goals of Putin, to destroy the line of the fortresses that I mentioned before, like Kupiansk, Konstantinivka, Pokrovsk, Orikhiv, Hulaipole. If they will cross this line, if they will cross Donbas, and if they would, for example, take Donbas without any fight, Ukraine will lose the best area, maybe even in whole Europe, to defend. Donbas is the best defend line in this country to stop Russians. So we should do everything to support Ukraine, to keep those fortresses alive. The next line, it would be Dnipro River, and probably Russia will stop for a moment on the Dnipro River, but they destroyed the dam in Nowa Kachowka a year and a half ago near Kherson, and the land over there is drying. So in some places, the river shorted from the 30 kilometers wide to 1 kilometer, for example. So Russia is patient. If they will wait enough, for example, next 4 years, and the United States will keep this kind of strategy that they have now, this land will dry. This is also kind of a metaphor, but this land will dry and the Russians will go further. Why not? They can rebuild the army. They can find some more money. They are earning a lot of money on crypto, for example. A lot of money that is financing so-called Donetsk People's Republic comes from crypto, because the bank transfers, they do not work. in this land. So they are using a lot of ways to find the finances, and this is not only the oil, this is not only a gas, but we are forgetting that we are living in modern times, and there is a lot of ways for the terrorists and for criminals to make money that is invisible for us. So if we do not, if we won't see all of those dangers, then I would say in the 90 minutes of this game, we will see Russia as a winner. But we still have time. But we really need to think, and we need to act, and we need to be together, and we need to exactly and clearly know who is the murderer, who is the terrorist, and who is the victim. And with our Western values, we need to know that we need to support a victim, not a terrorist. And we do not need to, and we shouldn't negotiate with the terrorists, because who is Russia if not a terrorist? Who is, sending bombs and tanks to kill innocent people? How many civilians died in this war? We see it every day. I live in Kiev every day, and every night I'm afraid if I will be awake in the morning. And this is real thing. This is not a fairy tale.
All right, thank you, Piotr. I'm going to just give briefly the view from Britain. So I've got a somewhat contradictory image of Britain. So Britain is it both doesn't trust anybody on these peace talks, but at the same time, it's fairly sure about which side it's on. So the British public and the British government has been very strongly in favor of Ukraine in this war. It's been very clear that despite a change of administration, the government has been very clear that Russia is at fault. Russia is the aggressor, and Britain has generally been the leading European state to get armaments to Ukraine for the purpose of defending Ukraine. So officially, that stance, that side, Britain has picked a side. It continues to be pro-Ukraine, and that has not changed. However, there is on the public side, there is a decline in popular support for the expense, as there is in America. You could call it war fatigue or donor fatigue, and there is some exasperation with the length of time that the peace negotiations are taking. Certainly, Britons generally don't trust Putin and don't trust Russia in general. Now, having said that, there is a caveat to that. There is a fringe in Britain, as there is in America, which blames the West for this war and thinks Russia is only defending its interests, or it was provoked, or that in even more bizarre cases, that Ukraine attacked Russia, NATO colluded in Ukraine's attack on Russia, and Russia is defending itself. So you do see that sort of commentary. It is not mainstream, and in fact, it's not even in the more conservative outlets outside the mainstream, but you will see it in the commentary on those sorts of outlets. So that speaks to the fatigue in Britain with the war, that there is more tendency to blame the West for the war continuing or the peace negotiations not concluding, even if Britons are not yet ready to blame the West or Ukraine for the war, for the start of the war. So if I can be clear about that, even though Britons generally are not ready to blame anybody but Russia for starting the war, they are starting to look around to blame other parties for the war continuing. Now, the blame goes everywhere in Britain. We have a very unpopular political administration led by Keir Starmer. So whenever Keir Starmer speaks in favor of Ukraine, criticizes Trump's almost unilateral attempts to negotiate peace in Ukraine. Whenever Keir Starmer takes a side, he's so unpopular that it tends to reflect poorly on the side he's trying to support. So this is, Keir Starmer's unfavorability in Britain is starting to rub off on Ukraine. So if Keir Starmer is supporting anything, people are generally cynical about what he's supporting. And then Trump doesn't look so bad. Having said that, British opinion polls are very clear that there is a lot of dismay in how Trump is approaching peace negotiations, where Trump does look pro-Russian. He does look like he is negotiating with Russia while excluding Ukraine and Europe as a whole. Britain is in the unique position of being outside the European Union entirely. So it is inclined to be suspicious about how the European Union does foreign policy. Having said that, again, there is a strong minority in Britain that is pro-European Union, and that includes the Keir Starmer administration that explicitly now wants to restart a relationship with the European Union, denies that it wants to reverse Brexit, but in effect is step-by-step reversing Brexit. No, the supporters of that pro-European Union stance are very down on Trump, will in fact blame Brexit for Britain's lack of leverage on these negotiations, and strongly pro Ukraine, although you're dealing with an administration which is struggling with spending, and it is not spending on defense. So defense spending continues to shrink in real terms, even as government spending as a whole expands. So Britain is, in foreign policy terms, is in the contradictory position of being rhetorically very strong on defending Ukraine and criticizing Russia, but not having the defense resources to do anything about it. Certainly not more than it's already due. Britain is already overcommitted in defending Estonia, Romanian airspace, the Baltics, the northern flank going around Norway, the Eastern Mediterranean, and then its responsibilities in the Caribbean and Asia. It's already overstretched. And a good example of that is Russian spy ships are increasing the frequency in which they are penetrating British maritime waters in order to suck up signals intelligence. Those ships include both surface ships and submarines. Submarines have moved around Britain and are now in the Irish Sea, and they are effectively acting with impunity because the Royal Navy is mostly in dry dock. It's most of the warships are in repair because of chronic underfunding and chronic failures to replace aging fleets. So Britain is in a lot of contradictory positions here. I will just note the latest news just to be quick, just to confirm Britain's skepticism of Russia, even though it's skeptical of all the parties increasingly, very much that Russia is the villain here. So that the villainy of Putin in particular has been confirmed today by the conclusion of a public inquiry into the Novichok killings back in 2017, 2018. The initial target was the Russian defector Skripal, who was with his daughter. He and his daughter were sickened by Novichok in an apparent attempted assassination. A police officer who came to their rescue was also sickened, and then a little while later, a woman died when she sprayed on herself Novichok that was inside a perfume bottle. She thought that was perfume. So there was a death involved in that. And this public inquiry is including that Putin is, quote, morally responsible for the death of that victim, Dawn Sturgis. And it is categorical that Putin must have known the Kremlin was sending two agents to kill Sergei Skripal, and this was essentially terrorism, international terrorism, or at least assassination on British soil, and Putin cannot be trusted. They are somewhat on the fringe of the negotiations. I'll just say I haven't mentioned yet that Britain has a separate negotiating activity in the form of Jonathan Powell, who is the National Security Advisor. He was Tony Blair's chief of staff. And Keir Starmer has brought him back as a national security advisor with additional roles. So essentially, he is Britain's chief diplomat. He is the one who is the chief negotiator with China, trying to reset negotiations, reset relations with China. Also, is the chief negotiator with Brussels, trying to reset relations with the European Union. And he flies to America, effectively as the chief diplomat to America, and he's flying it to European capitals, trying to kickstart a British-led peace plan at the same time as obviously people like Emmanuel Macron are trying to take the credit for a European peace plan. So Britain has I would call it a vainglorious interest in a British-led peace plan. It's trying to lead in Europe. But obviously it's competing with Macron, and it is upsetting the Trump administration, with which it has played a difficult balancing act. So it has wanted to negotiate special technology partnerships, improvements in freer trade. At the same time, it wants to be critical of Donald Trump in order to appeal to the leftist base. So you get the sense here that the bottom line here is that Britain has a lot of contradictory, ambiguous, duplicitous activities and perceptions of the international response to the war in Ukraine. I'll leave it there. Jack, over to you.
By the way, Bruce is also an American, so he can fill in any gaps that I leave. But a lot of what Bruce said about Great Britain, about the balancing act we have here, applies. A few points. Keep in mind, U.S. defense budget for fiscal 2026. It's not public yet, but the number is, I think, $890 billion. And of course, it only goes up. I say it's in the draft now. So, gradually, I mean, we're looking at a U.S. defense budget of almost $1 trillion eventually, which is about half of Russia's GDP. The current government is withholding not just information, but data. They've taken down government databases or scrubbed them. But we got an election coming up in a year, and already the predictions look pretty dire for the Republicans. And now even the Senate may be in jeopardy because Nebraska is going to be sending to Washington, the way it looks now, neither a Republican or a Democrat. It'll be an independent, which when you have you're on a razor's edge like that, that's rather huge. But if they don't take over the Senate, Democrats pretty much are going to, it's pretty certain they're going to control Congress. I mean, one of Marjorie Taylor Greene's reasons for resigning from Congress is because the Republicans are going to lose the House. If the Democrats take over the House, then that means all the committees will be chaired by Democrats, and all the investigations, they almost always begin in the House. I think by law they begin in the House. And once they start going into the investigations, then it just means more and more chaos. So we've got a pile of money. Oh, by the way, we don't know what Haig Smith's fate is at the moment. If he is removed, we don't know who replaces him. If he stays, he may be looking at the Hague. If if these allegations about the boat sinking, which you might have heard about over there, are true. So we're going to be looking at more chaos. But there's what's in the bank now is almost $900 billion in defense spending, the largest we've ever had, and overwhelming support of Ukraine by the American public. But predicting it is very daunting. But these are the long-term trends, and this is what I know. I don't know, Bruce, if I'm reading anything wrong, is there anything you can add?
Oh, I think you got it. Obviously the thing with Witkoff has not played well, even with Republicans. Trump has come across as pro-Russian even to his most loyal supporters. I don't know where this can possibly go. At some point, surely the Trump administration has got to say, look, Russia is just playing us. Trump's gone there before. He has tweeted his disappointment when Putin has bombed Kiev after signaling that he's ready for peace. And Trump has voiced his exasperation before. At what point, what would it take? I don't know what it would take for Trump to say, look, I've had enough. Every time I talk peace, Putin raises his expectations. Putin is not serious about peace. I just don't know what it's going to take.
That's where we're all at. And, he had Mondami welcome him to his office. This is the guy he demonized for months, but he respects power. He has a fixation for power. And he saw in this arch enemy of his a guy who has political power and and he didn't want to test it. It's going to be chaotic for the next couple of months, and the conspiracy theories are going to fly, and a lot of them are going to fly right in his face. There's always discussions about his health and about his dementia. He's going to be fighting them off. I mean, the other day he was up till 5 a.m. tweeting 200 and some odd tweets he posted. We don't know what's going on, but materially there and public wise, everyone there's resources to really put the pressure on Russia. And Lindsey Graham has his sanction bill where he has 85 co-sponsors, Senate co-sponsors, not supporters, co-sponsors, 85 senators, Republicans and Democrats, have signed on to this bill, which is very, very rare, especially in these days when you get this kind of consensus. And he's afraid to pull it out because he doesn't know what his standing is going to be with Trump. And, he may act when he thinks Trump is weak politically or is toxic. But, it's a wait game. Everybody is waiting.